AITA for refusing to let my sister's daughter stay with me after she lied about me and my boyfriend. I, 28F, have an older sister, 34F, Jess, who has a daughter, Lily, 10. We've never been super close, but we have always been on decent terms. We're from a pretty tight-knit family, so it's expected that we'll look out for each other. That said, we're not in each other's lives every day, and for the most part, our relationship stays friendly but distant. Now, let me explain the situation. I've been in a relationship with my boyfriend, Dylan, 30, for about 2 years. We've been living together for 1 year. Dylan and I are both independent people who enjoy spending time together, but we also make time for our individual hobbies and have separate social circles. Everything's going great between us, and we're planning on staying together long term. A few weeks ago, Jess came to me and asked if Lily could stay with me for a few days. Apparently, she and her husband, who I'll refer to as Greg, were going away for a weekend trip, and Lily was going to be left with a sitter. Jess didn't like the idea of leaving Lily with someone she didn't know well and was wondering if I could look after her instead. She said it was a last-minute thing, and she didn't want to disrupt Lily's routine too much. I didn't mind at first. I like Lily, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to spend some quality time with her. I told Jess I was happy to have Lily over, and we made arrangements for the weekend. At the time, I didn't think much about it, but a couple of days before Lily was supposed to arrive, I got a strange call from Jess. She told me that she had just spoken to Lily and that her daughter was having some concerns about staying at my place. Apparently, Lily had mentioned to Jess that Dylan wasn't nice to her when she came over last time. This completely threw me off guard. I had no idea what she was talking about. I asked Jess to clarify, and she explained that Lily had said Dylan wasn't very friendly toward her and that she felt uncomfortable around him. This was completely out of the blue, as Dylan has always been kind and polite toward Lily. He's never been anything but warm when she's visited, and I couldn't understand why Lily would say something like that. I told Jess that I was really surprised by what she was saying because that wasn't my experience at all, but Jess insisted that she wanted to be sure Lily would be comfortable. So I asked Lily directly. I called her, and she told me that Dylan wasn't nice to her during the last visit and that she didn't feel like he liked her. When I pressed for more details, she said he didn't talk to her much and didn't want to play with her when she asked. I asked her if there was any specific reason for this, but Lily just said she didn't know. She was 10 years old, so I thought maybe she had misunderstood or misinterpreted something, but it still didn't sit right with me. I told Lily that I would talk to Dylan about it, and I did. Dylan was genuinely surprised by what Lily had said, and he couldn't recall anything specific that might have caused her to feel that way. He admitted that he's not great with kids. He's more of a dog person than a kid person, and he's still getting used to being around kids more often, but he assured me that he was always polite to Lily and tried to be kind. At this point, I was feeling a little uncomfortable with the situation. I knew Dylan wasn't perfect with kids, but he'd always been respectful to Lily and treated her with kindness. After discussing it, we agreed that we should make more of an effort to connect with her during her next visit. Still, I didn't want to force her to stay with us if she genuinely felt uncomfortable. I called Jess and explained that Dylan and I had talked about it, and that we would make sure Dylan made a better effort to connect with Lily if she did come over. I told her that I understood if Lily wasn't ready to stay with us, though, and I didn't want to pressure her into anything. Jess then got upset with me and accused me of making it sound like I was blaming Lily for feeling uncomfortable. She said that I should just deal with it and let Lily stay with us anyway. I told her that I didn't want to do anything that would make Lily feel forced or uncomfortable, and that it would be better to address the situation first before she stayed. The whole conversation left me feeling pretty frustrated. I felt like Jess wasn't really hearing me and was more concerned with her own convenience than actually addressing the issue with Lily. I tried to explain that I wasn't blaming Lily, but that I just wanted to make sure she felt safe and comfortable. After a few more days of back and forth, Jess started acting distant with me. She told me that she had found another solution for Lily's weekend stay and that she wouldn't need to come over to my place anymore. I agreed that it was probably best, but I was still feeling unsettled by the whole situation. Fast forward a week, and things took a turn for the worse. Jess called me again, this time angry. Apparently, Lily had told her that I had refused to let her stay at my house because of Dylan and that I had made her feel unwelcome. Jess told me she was disappointed in me and that I had hurt Lily's feelings by not letting her stay. I was completely blindsided. This wasn't at all how I had seen the situation. I tried to explain that I had never refused Lily, but that I didn't want to put her in a situation where she felt uncomfortable. I also explained that I was doing my best to work things out with Dylan, but it wasn't going to happen overnight. Jess didn't want to hear it, though. She said I had made her daughter feel unwanted and that I should have just let her stay regardless of the situation. I hung up feeling extremely upset. I had tried to handle the situation with care, but it seemed like Jess was more interested in placing blame on me than actually understanding what happened. It was as though she was prioritizing her own feelings over Lily's comfort and ignoring the fact that I was trying to be considerate. I haven't talked to Jess since then, and I'm honestly not sure what to do next. I feel like I'm in the wrong for not just letting Lily stay, but at the same time, I didn't want to put her in an awkward situation. AITA for not just letting Lily stay despite her complaints about Dylan. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot and motivates me to create even more amazing content just for you. Make sure to turn on notifications so you'll never miss out on a new video. I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your support. It truly helps the channel grow. AITA for refusing to help my sister pay for her wedding after she called me selfish for not contributing. I, 28M, have a sister, Sarah, 30F, who's been planning her wedding for over a year now. We're not super close, but we've always gotten along well enough, although we have had our moments. I'm not exactly rich or anything, but I have a steady job and live a comfortable life. Sarah has always been more into the idea of grand gestures, luxury, and living what she calls the dream life. Growing up, she always had higher expectations of things: school, parties, clothes, basically anything she could put her mind to. She wanted it to be bigger and better than everyone else. I'm not saying she's spoiled, but she definitely enjoys a lifestyle that's more extravagant than what I'm used to. Now, to get into the situation, Sarah has been asking me for help with her wedding costs for the past few months. At first, I didn't think much of it because she's my sister, and of course, I want to help her out if I can. But the more she brought it up, the more uncomfortable I became. She's asked for specific amounts, like $3,000 to contribute to the venue, $1,500 for flowers, and recently another $2,000 to help with her bridal party's outfits. All of these were framed as, "Can you help?" But over time, it became clear that she expected me to say yes. She even implied that I was being stingy for not offering more when she first started planning everything. I don't think I'm being unreasonable by saying I can't afford that kind of financial commitment. I've been saving up for my own future, have a few debts I'm paying off, and I don't feel comfortable just throwing thousands of dollars at someone else's dream wedding when I'm still working on my own financial stability. The wedding is also happening in a city that's about a 3-hour drive from where I live, so on top of the financial ask, there are travel expenses too. I explained all this to Sarah in a calm conversation. I told her that I would be happy to contribute a smaller amount, something I could afford, but I couldn't give her $6,000 or more to fund her wedding. I was clear that while I love her and would support her in other ways, this just wasn't feasible for me. I thought I'd been pretty reasonable about it. She didn't take it well at all. She told me that I was being selfish and that it was unfair for me to not help her when she's always been there for me. She said she's done everything for me and that I owed her because I've always had it easier. I don't know where that came from, but I was really hurt. The truth is, we've always had different financial situations. Our parents aren't rich, but they've helped her more, which might explain some of her expectations. Still, I've always worked hard for what I have, and I don't think I owe anyone money just because they think I should help. The next thing I know, my mom calls me to ask if I'm really not going to help Sarah. She said I was being unreasonable and that family helps each other out. I told her what I had already told Sarah. I can't afford to contribute as much as Sarah wanted, and I'm not going to stretch myself thin just to make her wedding perfect. My mom got really quiet after that and said she was disappointed. She also mentioned that Sarah was crying and saying I was the only one who could help her, that I was ruining her special day by not pitching in. That was when things really started to spiral. Sarah has now been texting me daily about how selfish I am, how I'm a terrible brother, and that she'll never forgive me if I don't come through. At this point, I'm really frustrated. I've never been one to give in to guilt, but it's starting to wear on me. My friends have been split on this. Some agree with me that it's unreasonable to expect so much from someone, and others think I should just give her the money to avoid the family drama. But I feel like I'll be setting a bad precedent if I just throw money at the situation, especially since I don't have it to spare. To make matters worse, Sarah has now started posting on social media about how family doesn't care about you, and how people will always let you down. She didn't directly name me, but it's pretty obvious who she's talking about. I'm feeling like I've been publicly shamed at this point. I'm so tired of being put in this position of having to justify myself and defend my decision. So, AITA for refusing to help my sister pay for her wedding after she called me selfish for not contributing? Edit. Since some people are asking for more context, I'll clarify. My sister and I have always had a somewhat strained relationship, though we never fought openly until now. Growing up, she was always a bit of a perfectionist, and I was more of a get-by kind of person. She's always had bigger expectations for herself and others, and I think this wedding has just heightened those feelings. I know she wants everything to be perfect, but I just don't think I should sacrifice my financial well-being for that. Also, I did offer to help in other ways. I offered to help her with wedding planning, give suggestions, or assist with things that wouldn't require cash. But she wasn't interested in that and just kept pushing for money. So, yeah, it wasn't like I just refused to be involved. AITA for not allowing my sister-in-law to bring her kids to my wedding after she disinvited my daughter. So, this is a bit of a mess, and I'm honestly torn if I'm in the wrong or if I'm justified in my decision. I'll try to give all the background and details as clearly as possible, so please bear with me. I, 32F, am getting married to my fiancé, Sam, 35M, in a few months. Sam has a younger sister, Anna, 30F, who I've had a very complicated relationship with since we met. She's been a part of Sam's life for a long time, and I've always tried to be respectful and get along with her, but it hasn't always been easy. Anna is let's just say she's difficult to get along with. To give some context, Anna has 2 kids, Jake, 7, and Lily, 5, who are both adorable but also a bit of a handful. I've always tried to be kind to them, but there's been an issue with my daughter, Ellie, 8. Ellie and Anna's kids have never really gotten along. Jake and Lily are often loud, unruly, and tend to bully Ellie whenever they're together. It's not like they're trying to be malicious, but they don't seem to understand boundaries or personal space, and Ellie is sensitive about it. Ellie has always been a little quieter and more reserved than other kids, and as much as I've tried to encourage a friendship between her and Anna's kids, it just hasn't worked. There have been multiple incidents where Anna's kids have teased Ellie, called her names, and just generally ignored her feelings. I've talked to Anna about it a couple of times, but she always brushes it off, claiming that kids will be kids, and I shouldn't be so sensitive. Sam has tried to intervene as well, but it's clear that Anna doesn't see the problem. Fast forward to a couple of months ago when we started planning the wedding. Sam and I discussed the guest list, and we wanted a relatively small, intimate ceremony. We both agreed that, as much as we love our families, we wanted to keep it more about the two of us and less about the chaos that can come with large gatherings. So, after some consideration, we decided not to invite any kids to the wedding. The reasoning behind this was twofold. First, we wanted to avoid having to cater to a bunch of kids running around, and second, Ellie is a bit sensitive to big events and crowds, so we thought it would be better for her if it was just adults. I made the decision to tell Anna that we wouldn't be inviting her kids to the wedding. I explained it to her as gently as I could, saying that this wasn't a reflection of how I felt about her or her kids, but that we were keeping the wedding adult only for a number of reasons, including Ellie's comfort. I was expecting her to be a little upset, but I thought she'd understand. To my surprise, she was furious. She accused me of being disrespectful to her and her children, claiming that I was purposely excluding them because I didn't like her kids. She even went so far as to say that I was trying to ruin her family's happiness by not allowing her kids to be there. She said that Ellie was the one causing the problems with her kids, and that I was just using this as an excuse to get rid of them. I tried to explain that this was a decision Sam and I had made together, and that it wasn't personal, but she wouldn't hear any of it. In the middle of this argument, Anna told me that if her kids couldn't come, then she wouldn't be coming either. She said she wouldn't be treated like a second-class citizen, and that she was done with me. I was honestly pretty taken aback by this, because it felt like an overreaction to me. But I also knew that it was important to her to be at the wedding, so I offered a compromise. I told her that if she felt strongly about bringing her kids, then maybe we could discuss it further and find a way to make it work. But her response was just to get more angry and demand that I either invite her kids or she wasn't coming at all. This went on for a while with no resolution, and in the end, I just decided to stick to my original decision. Sam and I talked about it, and we agreed that the wedding should stay adults only, and that we wouldn't make exceptions just for Anna and her kids. I sent Anna a message telling her that we respected her feelings, but we were going to keep the guest list as it was. I also told her that if she felt like she couldn't attend without her kids, we'd understand if she chose not to come, but the wedding was going to be for adults only. Now here's where things really went off the rails. Anna went on Facebook and posted a huge rant about me. She called me selfish, disrespectful, and ungrateful for everything she's done for me. She said that I was being a bad aunt to her kids and that I had ruined the family's relationship with my selfish wedding plans. She also told people that she wasn't coming to the wedding and that I had made her feel unwelcome in my life. This was all public, so now a lot of Sam's family knew about the issue, and it became a huge family drama. Some of Sam's family has been reaching out to me, asking if I could just let it go and let Anna bring her kids so that there wouldn't be any issues. A couple of people are even on her side, saying that it's not a big deal and that I'm being too rigid about the guest list. I don't want to cause any more tension or drama, but I also feel like I'm being pushed into a corner. I don't think I should have to change my wedding plans just to make her feel better. But at the same time, I hate the idea of family rift, especially before our wedding. So, AITA for sticking to my guns and not letting Anna bring her kids to my wedding. AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after she insulted my boyfriend. So, to give some background, I, 29F, have an older sister, 32F, named Claire. We've always had a somewhat rocky relationship, but recently, it's been worse than ever. Claire is getting married next month, and I've been invited to her wedding. However, I'm currently not sure if I want to attend. Here's the reason why. I've been dating my boyfriend, Alex, 31M, for about a year now. We met through mutual friends, and honestly, he's the best guy I've ever been with. He's caring, respectful, and shares a lot of the same interests as me. He gets along with my family pretty well, too, and my parents like him, so that's a relief. The problem is with Claire. From the moment she met Alex, she was cold to him. I thought it was just her being a bit standoffish, but over time, her behavior became more rude. She would make subtle comments about how different he was from the guys she typically dates, which, to be honest, I didn't think was a big deal. I brushed it off, but then it escalated. At family dinners or gatherings, she would make little snide remarks about his job. He works in IT, which she once referred to as one of those useless desk jobs. She would ask questions like, "So, what do you do all day besides stare at a computer screen?" Or, "How do you even make a living doing that?" I tried to ignore it, but it started getting under my skin, especially because Alex is really good at what he does, and he's worked really hard to get where he is. The final straw came a few weeks ago at a family barbecue. Claire was talking about her wedding, and Alex and I were talking about how excited we were to celebrate with her. I guess my excitement came across a bit too strongly, because Claire suddenly turned to Alex and said, "It's not like you're going to be part of the family anyway. You're just the guy my sister is dating. She could do better." It took me by surprise. I mean, I've never seen Claire say anything that bluntly before. I immediately stood up for Alex and told her that was an incredibly rude thing to say. Claire just shrugged and said, "I'm entitled to my opinion. Not everyone is as obsessed with you as you are with him." The whole mood shifted after that, and my parents noticed the tension. They pulled me aside later, and my mom said I needed to let things go and not cause drama before the wedding. My dad, on the other hand, was pretty upset and said Claire shouldn't have said something like that to Alex. But in the end, my parents said it was important for me to move on because it was only a few weeks before the wedding and I didn't want to make things worse. But here's the thing. I'm really hurt by what Claire said. I've spent years trying to have a decent relationship with her, and she's always been difficult to deal with. But this comment was so much worse than anything she's ever done before. It felt like an attack on my relationship and my boyfriend. I don't want to just let it go because I don't feel like it was something that should be brushed under the rug. I've told Claire that I'm not sure if I want to go to the wedding anymore because of the way she treated Alex. She told me that I was being childish and that I should just grow up for once and not make everything about me. I told her that I wouldn't feel comfortable going to her wedding if she wasn't going to be respectful to my boyfriend, but she didn't seem to care. She even said, if you really cared about me, you would be there, but if you're going to be that petty, then don't bother showing up. Now, my family's upset with me. My mom keeps saying that this is a family event and that I should just suck it up and support my sister, regardless of how I feel about her behavior. My dad said he understood why I was upset, but also thought I was blowing things out of proportion. Other relatives are texting me, saying I should make amends because family is everything, and that I'll regret it if I don't go. On the other hand, my friends are telling me that I'm completely justified in standing up for my boyfriend. They all think Claire's behavior was out of line, and they've been supporting me through this whole thing. I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I don't want to be the person who causes drama or makes things difficult for the family, but I also don't want to pretend like everything is fine when it clearly isn't. I've tried to explain to my family that this isn't just about going to a wedding. This is about feeling disrespected and unappreciated by my sister. I don't know what to do at this point. Should I just suck it up and go to the wedding, even though I feel like I'm being disrespected? Or should I stick to my guns and skip it, even if it means damaging my relationship with my family? AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after she insulted my boyfriend? AITA for not letting my sister-in-law stay with us after she accused me of trying to replace her? I, 30F, have been married to my husband, Jake, 32M, for 5 years now. Jake and I have a pretty good relationship with his side of the family. His parents, Greg and Carla, are nice enough, though I do think they favor Jake's sister, Alyssa, 28F, a little too much. It's never been a huge issue for me, but there have been a few times where I've felt like I've been treated differently than Alyssa. Alyssa and I never really hit it off, even before I started dating Jake. We've always been polite to each other, but I've always felt like she thinks I'm beneath her in some way. She comes from a wealthy family, and while we're comfortable, we're not quite on the same level as them. I think that's one of the things that's created some tension between us. She's never been outright rude, but I can tell she's condescending toward me at times. Recently, Alyssa's been going through a rough patch. She and her long-term boyfriend, Ethan, broke up, and she's been having some issues with her job. She reached out to Jake a couple of months ago to say that she needed to stay with us for a while until she got back on her feet. We have a guest bedroom, and while it was a bit of an inconvenience, I didn't think it would be a huge deal. Jake told me about it, and I agreed, thinking it would just be a few weeks or a month at most. Well, it's been almost 3 months now, and Alyssa is still living with us. At first, it wasn't too bad. She kept to herself, and while there were occasional passive-aggressive comments about my cooking or the way I keep the house, I was able to let it slide. But over the last few weeks, things have started to get more tense. Alyssa is extremely messy. She leaves her stuff all over the place, doesn't clean up after herself, and never offers to help with anything. I get that she's going through a tough time, but I feel like I'm the one picking up after her all the time. I've had to clean her dishes, pick up her clothes from the living room, and even deal with some of her personal items being left in shared spaces. Jake has spoken to her about it, but she always says she's too stressed out to keep her stuff together and that she's not used to living like this. The final straw came a week ago when Jake and I decided to take a weekend trip out of town. We made plans to go to a nearby cabin for a couple of nights to relax. Alyssa knew about the trip because we mentioned it in passing, and everything was fine until the day before we were supposed to leave. Jake and I were packing, and Alyssa asked where we were going. When we told her, she said, "Oh, sounds nice. Maybe I'll just stay here while you're gone. It'll be good for me to have some time alone to think." I didn't think much of it at first, But then the next day, as we were about to leave, Alyssa casually mentioned that she invited a couple of her friends over to hang out while we were gone. I was taken aback. Jake and I had made plans for some peace and quiet, and I didn't think it was appropriate for Alyssa to have a party at our house while we were away. I politely told her that it wasn't okay for her to have people over without asking us first, and she got really defensive. She started saying things like, "It's my home too, and you're just trying to replace me with your life." I was shocked and tried to explain that I wasn't trying to replace her, but that it was our home and that we had a right to decide what happens in it, especially when we're not there. She got really upset and accused me of trying to push her out of the family and make her feel unwelcome. I didn't think I was doing any of that, but the conversation escalated quickly, and she ended up storming out of the room. Jake was understandably uncomfortable with the situation, but he didn't take sides. He just said that we needed to talk to her later about boundaries. The whole thing left me feeling uneasy, and I wasn't sure if I was being too harsh or if Alyssa was overreacting. That night, we went on our trip, and when we got back, things were even worse. Alyssa barely spoke to me, and there was a cold tension in the air. After a couple of days, she finally confronted me about the whole situation. She told me that I was being unfair, that I was treating her like a burden, and that I was trying to take over her place in the family. She said I was pushing her out of her own family home, and it really hurt her feelings. She said that she felt like I wanted her gone so I could have my perfect life with Jake, and that I was trying to replace her. I was completely blindsided by this. I tried to tell her that it wasn't about replacing her, but that I just needed some space and that it wasn't fair to have her living with us indefinitely without helping out around the house. I also told her that I felt like she wasn't respecting our boundaries, and I asked her to be more considerate, but she wouldn't listen. She accused me of being selfish and said that she had nowhere else to go. At this point, Jake and I had a serious conversation, and we agreed that it might be time for Alyssa to find her own place. We offered to help her look for apartments, but Alyssa took it as a personal attack. She started crying and said that we were both abandoning her and that she was just trying to get through a tough time. I told her that I wasn't abandoning her, but I couldn't keep living with the stress of having her in our space without contributing to anything. Alyssa has now refused to talk to me. She says I'm being cruel and that I've hurt her more than anyone ever has. Jake is stuck in the middle. He agrees that we can't let her stay forever, but he doesn't want to upset her. He says I'm being too harsh, but he's also told me that he thinks it's time for her to move out. So, AITA for not wanting Alyssa to stay with us anymore. I feel like I'm being reasonable, but I don't know if I'm just being insensitive to her situation. AITA for calling out my friend for not helping me during a crisis, even though I've always helped her. I, 29F, have a close friend, Emily, 28F, who I've known since high school. We were always there for each other through thick and thin. At least, that's how it's always seemed to me. Over the years, we've helped each other through breakups, job losses, family issues, and pretty much every big life event. It felt like a friendship that would last forever, but recently, I've started to wonder if it was as one-sided as I thought. About 2 months ago, I went through a pretty intense personal crisis. My boyfriend of 5 years, Jake, 30M, and I had decided to break up. It was not a sudden decision. We've been having problems for a while, but it still hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt like I was losing the person I had planned my future with, and the emotional toll was immense. On top of that, I had to find a new place to live since we had been living together for 3 years. It was a lot of upheaval all at once, and I really struggled to keep it together. During this time, I reached out to Emily for support. I told her I was feeling lost and overwhelmed and really needed a friend to lean on. She had been through some breakups in the past, so I thought she would understand what I was going through. I explained that I wasn't sure what to do next, that I was scared, and that I could really use a distraction or even just someone to talk to. Now, Emily is the kind of person who's always been a bit flaky. She cancels plans often, doesn't always follow through on promises, and tends to put her own needs first. But despite all of that, I always forgave her because she's my friend, and I believed deep down that when it really mattered, she would be there for me. I gave her a call the night after my breakup, hoping to get some comfort or advice. She didn't pick up, which I didn't think too much of at first. Maybe she was busy, but then she didn't respond to my texts either. This continued for days. When she finally did reply, it was with a simple, "Sorry, I've been so swamped at work. I'll call you later." I understood that work can be stressful, so I waited. Another couple of days went by, and she still hadn't reached out. I started to feel like I was the one putting all the effort into this friendship. I kept telling myself that she was probably just distracted with her own life, but the silence started to get to me. Finally, after about a week of no real communication, I sent her a long message explaining how hurt I was. I told her that I understood she might be busy, but that I really needed her, and it felt like she didn't care. I reminded her of all the times I had dropped everything to be there for her, whether it was helping her through a tough family situation or spending hours listening to her vent about her job. Her response was pretty much exactly what I expected. "I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean to hurt you. I've just been really overwhelmed, and I didn't know what to say to make it better." I tried to brush it off because I really wanted to keep the friendship intact, so I forgave her. But as the days went by, things didn't improve. Emily would still cancel plans, still not checking on me, and still give me vague excuses when I asked how she was doing. Meanwhile, I was going through the worst emotional roller coaster of my life, and I felt completely alone. I don't know when exactly it happened, but I hit a breaking point. I had been putting on a brave face at work and in front of my family, but inside, I felt like I was crumbling. I had a panic attack one night, and instead of calling Emily or anyone else, I just curled up on the couch and cried. That's when it hit me. I was constantly giving to people, trying to support them, and here I was struggling in silence and nobody seemed to notice. I was angry at myself for not standing up for myself sooner, and I was angry at Emily for not being the friend I thought she was. I had always given her so much of my time, my energy, and my emotional support, and now that I needed someone, it felt like she couldn't be bothered. A couple of weeks later, I saw Emily at a mutual friend's party. I had been avoiding her for a while because I didn't know what to say, but when I saw her, I decided I had to confront her. I pulled her aside and told her I was really hurt by how she had treated me during my breakup. I explained that I needed her, and instead of being there for me, she had ignored me. I told her that I had been there for her during every single tough time in her life, and it felt like she couldn't do the same for me. She seemed genuinely surprised by how upset I was. She apologized, but there was no real depth to it. It was just the kind of apology that felt more like an attempt to brush the situation under the rug. She told me she was going through her own stuff and didn't know how to handle it. She said that she hadn't meant to make me feel neglected, but that sometimes she just gets overwhelmed and retreats inwardly. I told her that I understood what it's like to be overwhelmed, but that doesn't mean you just abandon the people who care about you. I told her that I didn't think I could continue being friends with someone who wasn't there for me when it mattered most. She didn't seem to fully understand, and our conversation ended kind of awkwardly. Now, I've been thinking a lot about what happened. Emily and I have been friends for so long, and I really valued our friendship, but I can't shake the feeling that I was taken for granted. I've always been there for her, but when I needed her, she wasn't. I know friendships change over time, but I always thought that the ones that last are the ones where both people put in effort, not just one person. I haven't talked to Emily since the party. We're still technically friends, but things feel different now. I don't know if I'm being too harsh or if I'm right to feel upset, but I've been wondering if I should cut her off entirely. Part of me feels like maybe I'm overreacting, but another part of me feels like I deserve better. AITA for confronting my friend about not supporting me during my crisis? Was I wrong to expect more from her, given all the times I've been there for her? AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law move in with us after she lost her job? So, some background. I'm married to my husband, Alex, and we've been together for 5 years. We have a pretty good relationship with Alex's family, but there's one person who has caused some tension in our lives, my sister-in-law, Jane. Jane is 32, and she's had a history of being, let's say, less than responsible with her life choices. To give some context, she's had a few jobs in the past, but she's been fired from almost every one of them. She's also lived in a few different cities, but she can never seem to keep a stable living situation for long. She tends to get into financial problems and doesn't take responsibility for her actions, always expecting someone else to bail her out. Recently, Jane lost her latest job and found herself in a bit of a financial hole. Instead of trying to figure things out on her own, she turned to Alex and me for help. We've been living in a decent-sized 3-bedroom home, so we have the space, but things are a little tight, especially with my job being part-time and Alex working full-time in a lower-paying position. One evening, Jane calls us and tells us that she's been laid off and doesn't know what to do. She tells us that she's too embarrassed to ask her parents for help. They have been supporting her in the past, and she needs a place to stay while she looks for a new job. I immediately felt uncomfortable, but Alex, being the good brother that he is, said we should help her out. I've always been wary of Jane's financial habits, and I honestly didn't think she would stick to any kind of plan or budget if we let her move in. Our house isn't huge, and while we have a spare bedroom, I wasn't sure I was ready to share our space with her. We've always been a quiet household, and having a third person living with us was going to change the dynamic. But Alex was insistent. She's family, he said. We can't just leave her on the street. He also pointed out that it would only be temporary, and she'd be looking for work right away. I didn't want to say no outright, but I felt like this was a situation where we were going to end up enabling Jane's behavior. She's been in this cycle of losing jobs, moving from place to place, and never really learning any lessons from her mistakes. The last thing I wanted was for her to move in, get comfortable, and end up staying for months, possibly even years. I expressed my concerns to Alex, and he said that I was being too harsh and that we should just give her a chance to get back on her feet. After a few days of mulling it over, I made the decision to set some boundaries if we were going to help her. I told Alex that I would only agree to let Jane stay with us under the condition that she would be actively looking for a job every day and contribute to the household in some way, whether that be through cleaning, cooking, or helping with expenses. I also made it clear that there would be a hard limit of 2 months for her to get her act together. No excuses. She would need to be out of our house by then or find another solution. Alex agreed, and we called Jane to let her know she could stay with us. Jane was relieved and thanked us, but I could already sense the tension. She sounded grateful on the phone, but I knew this wasn't going to be as easy as she made it sound. The first few days went smoothly. She seemed motivated to find a new job and contributed a little around the house. However, after a week, I started noticing some cracks in her commitment. She'd go out for interviews, but didn't seem to follow up, and when I asked her about it, she made excuses. Oh, they said they'd call me back, but I haven't heard anything yet. Or, I didn't think I was a good fit for that job anyway. Things started to slip. She'd leave the dishes in the sink, leave her things lying around, and not really help out with the cleaning. At first, Alex defended her, saying that she had a lot on her plate with the job search, but I wasn't buying it. If she wasn't working, then she had plenty of time to pitch in around the house. A few weeks in, I found out that she hadn't even been actively applying for jobs. She'd been spending her days on the couch watching Netflix, scrolling through social media, and occasionally going out to see friends. I was getting frustrated, especially because we had been so clear with the boundaries from the start. I sat down with Jane and had a serious talk. I told her that if she wasn't actively searching for a job, she needed to contribute to the household more, either financially or with chores. I also reminded her of the 2-month limit we had agreed on. She seemed annoyed but agreed to step up, though I could tell she wasn't thrilled. The real turning point came when Jane started bringing her friends over to the house. They'd come by in the evenings to hang out, drink, and watch movies. The noise level was unbearable, and it felt like we had lost all privacy. Alex didn't mind so much because he thought it was good for her to have a support system, but I felt like this wasn't the deal we had made. I wasn't comfortable with strangers in our home, and it was disrespectful to our space. I finally snapped after a few days of this. I told Alex that I couldn't take it anymore and that Jane needed to either follow the rules we set or find another place to stay. Alex was upset with me, saying that I was being unreasonable and that Jane needed more support during this tough time. I told him I understood that, but I felt like we were enabling her to continue her irresponsible behavior, and it was making our home uncomfortable. After a heated argument, Alex agreed that we'd have a serious conversation with Jane. When we told her that she needed to either start taking her job search seriously or move out, she was furious. She accused me of not being supportive and said that I was treating her like a burden. Alex tried to calm the situation down, but Jane ended up packing her things and leaving that night. She said that she'd rather sleep in her car than stay in a house where she wasn't wanted. That stung, but honestly, I felt relieved. Since then, Jane hasn't reached out much. She's still in the process of finding a new place, and she's been avoiding family gatherings, which has made things even more tense. Alex is still upset with me, but he's come around to the idea that we did what we needed to do. I feel guilty about how things went down, but I also feel like I stuck to my boundaries and didn't let our kindness be taken advantage of. So, AITA for refusing to let Jane stay with us any longer? AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law's kids come to my wedding? So, this is a bit of a long story, but here we go. I, 28F, am getting married to my fiancé, Ryan, 29M, in a couple of months. We've been together for about 4 years now, and we've had our share of ups and downs, but we're finally getting married. I come from a pretty traditional family, and my parents have been super involved in the planning, which has been both a blessing and a curse. Ryan and I agreed from the start that we wanted a smaller, more intimate wedding, just family and a few close friends, mostly because we both hate large, flashy events. But as the planning has been going on, things have started to get complicated. My sister-in-law, Sarah, 34F, is married to Ryan's older brother, Mike, 36M. They have 3 kids, Emma, 10, Olivia, 8, and Ethan, 5. Sarah and I have never really gotten along. I don't want to sound petty, but she's always been a little distant with me, and I've always felt like she looks down on me for some reason. She's the type of person who's always overly critical of other people's choices, especially when it comes to parenting. She tends to think she knows better than everyone, and while I don't mind her giving advice here and there, she often makes me feel like my opinions don't matter, especially when it comes to how I'm planning my wedding. Now about the kids. I love kids in general, but I've never been super close to Sarah's. The age gap is part of it, but also her kids are just difficult. I don't mean to sound mean, but they're extremely spoiled and loud. It's not that they're inherently bad kids, but they've never really been disciplined in a way that encourages respect for other people's space or quiet time. They scream in restaurants, fight over toys, and generally have no concept of boundaries or personal space. Whenever I've been around them, it feels like a constant struggle to get them to behave. My parents, who are helping with the wedding, have also mentioned in passing that they aren't thrilled about having the kids at the ceremony. So when Ryan and I were going over the guest list, I brought up the fact that I really didn't want to invite Sarah's kids. Ryan agreed with me, but he said we should discuss it with Sarah first, since he didn't want to cause any unnecessary drama with his family. So we decided to tell her in advance that we were keeping the wedding kid-free, except for our nieces and nephews from my side of the family, who are younger and tend to be more well-behaved. Well, Sarah didn't take it well at all. She was livid. She called me up and immediately started yelling, saying I was being ridiculous and unfair for excluding her kids. She said that if they weren't invited, she wouldn't come at all. She even went as far as to accuse me of playing favorites with my side of the family and said it was messed up that I was allowing other kids to come but not hers. She tried to guilt-trip me, saying that her kids would be devastated and that I was making her feel like an outsider. I was honestly taken aback by how aggressively she reacted. I tried to explain that it wasn't about her kids personally, but more about the atmosphere we were trying to create for our wedding. I told her that we were just trying to keep things intimate and calm, and that the kids, as much as we love them, can sometimes make it hard to maintain that atmosphere. But Sarah wasn't hearing any of it. She said I was being selfish and that I was disrespecting her family. She also told me that if she couldn't bring her kids, she'd just stay home and let me have my perfect little wedding. Ryan was kind of stuck in the middle. He wants to keep the peace with his sister, but he also agrees with me that a kid-free wedding is the best option for everyone involved. He suggested I try to have another conversation with Sarah to smooth things over, but I'm honestly not sure how to handle it. I don't want to start a huge family feud, but I also don't want to cave in to Sarah's demands just to avoid conflict. I feel like if we make an exception for her, it could set a precedent where she thinks she can control the guest list or the rules for future events, and I really don't want that. We've had a few other disagreements since then, but I haven't backed down. Ryan and I are still on the same page about not inviting the kids, but now I'm starting to wonder if I'm being too harsh. Maybe it's not a big deal, and I'm just overthinking it. I really don't want to cause bad blood between me and my sister-in-law, especially since she's family. But at the same time, it's my wedding, and I feel like I should be able to make decisions that I'm comfortable with. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law's kids come to my wedding. Edit. To clarify, I didn't want to exclude Sarah's kids because they're her kids. It's more about the fact that they're often disruptive in social settings. I'm not against kids being at weddings, but I wanted to keep it peaceful and relaxed. And no, I'm not having a no kids policy for the entire event, just a small number of family kids who are better behaved. My side of the family has a different dynamic, and I felt it was fair to make that distinction. Also, I'm not saying her kids are bad, but there's definitely a pattern of them being loud and difficult to manage in formal settings. It's not something I feel comfortable with for my wedding. Thanks to everyone who's commented. I'm reading all the responses and will take them into consideration as we move forward. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what could be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she disinvited my fiancé. So a bit of backstory. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Chloe, 24, and we've always had a somewhat strained relationship. Growing up, I was more the responsible one, while she was more carefree and rebellious. Our dynamic has always been a bit rocky, but we've managed to stay somewhat close as adults, though we don't talk all the time. Recently, Chloe got engaged to her boyfriend Mark, 28M, who I've met a few times and always thought was fine. He seemed like a good guy, but I never got super close to him. Chloe announced her wedding, and, as expected, I was invited. She seemed happy about it, but there was a problem. Around the same time, my fiancé Matt, 30M, and I had been planning our wedding, which was set for the following year. Matt and I had been together for almost 5 years, and it was a big deal for both of us. The thing is, Chloe had been acting kind of weird around Matt for a while. She would make offhand comments about him being boring or too serious, which I brushed off at first. But then, she started making more pointed remarks, like how Matt wasn't her type of guy and how he didn't fit in with her crowd. Things came to a head when Chloe called me about a month ago to ask if Matt and I could make it to her wedding. I said we would, of course. Then she dropped a bombshell. She told me that she was fine with me coming, but that she couldn't have Matt there. Apparently, she had talked to Mark, and they both agreed that they didn't want someone so serious and uptight at their wedding. Chloe said, "It's my special day, and I want the vibe to be right. Mark and I don't really feel like Matt fits in with the atmosphere we're going for." At first, I thought she was joking, but then she said she was serious. She told me that it would be awkward with him there and suggested I could come alone. I was stunned. I asked her if she was really disinviting my fiancé, and she said yes, but that I could still attend without him. She even said she could understand if I didn't want to come because of it, but that the decision was final. Now, this isn't the first time Chloe has been difficult about Matt. She's made comments about how he's too stiff or too formal at family gatherings, but I've always defended him because he's a good person and I love him. He's never done anything to her or anyone else to warrant being treated like this. But the fact that she would disinvite him to her wedding was beyond the pale. We've been together for years, and I don't think it's fair for her to just exclude him because of her own preferences about what vibe she wants for her wedding. To me, it felt like a slap in the face. I told her I couldn't attend if Matt couldn't come. I tried to reason with her, saying that it was a big event in both of our lives, and it wasn't fair to expect me to come without him. I reminded her that Matt had always been supportive of her and her relationship with Mark, even though they weren't the best of friends. But Chloe didn't budge. She said I was being overdramatic and that I should just leave Matt at home if I really wanted to come. She told me that this was her day, and I needed to respect her wishes. I had to make a tough decision. I told Chloe that if Matt couldn't come, then I wouldn't be attending her wedding at all. I just couldn't go without him, and it didn't feel right to me. Chloe didn't take it well. She was upset and said I was choosing Matt over her, and that it was selfish of me to make it all about him instead of supporting her on her big day. She said that this was going to ruin our relationship, and I was being dramatic for no reason. I told her that if this was how she felt, then maybe our relationship wasn't as strong as I thought it was, and I'd be happy to give her space. My parents are now involved, and they've been pressuring me to just go without Matt. They say that weddings are about family and not about making it a personal statement. They try to convince me that it would mean a lot to Chloe if I showed up, even without Matt. They also told me that I should be the bigger person and not make this a bigger issue than it already is. I try to explain that I don't want to go without Matt because it feels like a slap in the face to him. He hasn't done anything wrong, and he's always been kind and respectful to Chloe, so it feels unjust to exclude him from something so important. But my parents are upset that I'm not supporting Chloe in her wedding. They keep saying that I'm being childish and that this is a moment for me to put family first, no matter what. To be clear, I've been close with my family for years, and I've always made an effort to support them, even when things have been difficult. But this feels different. It feels like Chloe is forcing me to choose between her and Matt, and I don't think that's fair. I feel like I should stand by my partner, who has been there for me through thick and thin, instead of just giving in to Chloe's unreasonable request. Now Chloe is telling me that she feels betrayed and that this is ruining her wedding. She said that I'm causing unnecessary drama, and it's just making everything stressful. I've tried to explain my side, but it feels like she's not even listening to me anymore. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she disinvited my fiancé? I really don't want to make this worse, but I don't think I can just ignore how unfair this is to Matt. AITA for telling my sister-in-law I wouldn't attend her wedding because of her disrespectful behavior toward my family. So, this is a bit of a long story, but I need to know if I was in the wrong here. For some context, I, 28F, have been married to my husband, Adam, 30M, for 3 years. His sister, Sarah, 33F, is getting married in a couple of months, and things have been really tense between us for quite a while now. First, a little background on Sarah. She's always been a bit difficult. She's the type of person who expects everything to revolve around her, and she has no problem putting others down to elevate herself. I used to try to get along with her, but over time, I've realized that she just isn't the type of person who's capable of being kind or considerate unless it benefits her somehow. For example, when I was planning my wedding, Sarah made it all about her. She constantly compared everything I did to her past wedding, which was a whole fiasco of its own. It was a low-key event, and her attitude was that if I didn't do things the way she did, I was doing it wrong. She also made a ton of unsolicited comments about my dress, my guest list, and my venue. She even tried to hijack my bridal shower plans and took over some of the details when I wasn't looking. It was exhausting, and it honestly put a huge strain on my relationship with Adam's family. Despite this, Adam kept encouraging me to be the bigger person and try to get along because she was his sister, and it was important to him that we have a good relationship. So, I tried to be patient with her, even when she made snide comments or rude remarks about my family or my personal life. Fast forward to a few months ago when Sarah announced her engagement. At first, I thought maybe things would be different this time around since it wasn't my wedding and I didn't have to be directly involved. But nope, Sarah immediately began the "I'm the queen now" act. She expected everyone to cater to her and, like before, didn't care about anyone else's feelings. She even made comments about how her wedding was going to be far better than mine because she was doing it right. It was like she was still stuck in the mindset that her wedding was the gold standard and everyone should bow down to her. The tension with Sarah came to a head when she started making demands on our family members, including my parents, about who could attend the wedding. She told my mom that she couldn't bring her friend to the ceremony because it would upset the balance of things, despite the fact that my mom and her friend had been close for years. It felt like she was deliberately trying to push people away just to see how much she could get away with. Then, she told me that I couldn't bring my best friend, whom I had known for over a decade, because she wasn't the type of person who belonged at her wedding. She even hinted that my best friend wasn't the right kind of class for the event. I was furious. Not only was she being rude to my mom, but now she was disrespecting me and my friendships. I told Adam about everything that had been happening, and he seemed sympathetic, but he also said I should let it slide because it was just a wedding and that I needed to keep the peace. I tried to explain that it wasn't just about the wedding. It was about how Sarah had always treated my family and me, and that I didn't feel comfortable continuing to play nice. He kept insisting I let it go, but I was fed up at this point. I told him that I didn't want to attend the wedding if Sarah kept acting this way. I made it clear that I wasn't going to tolerate any more of her disrespect. Adam got really upset, saying I was overreacting and that I was ruining the whole family dynamic. He said it was important to him that I attend because it would be awkward if I didn't, especially since it was such a significant event for his family. A couple of days later, Sarah called me directly to talk about my concerns. She said she had heard from Adam that I wasn't happy with her wedding plans and that I was considering not attending. She acted all sweet and asked me what the problem was. But as soon as I mentioned how she disrespected my family, especially my mom and best friend, she immediately became defensive. She claimed that I was just being petty and that it was her day and I should respect her wishes. I told her that if she didn't start treating my family with respect, I wasn't coming. She laughed and said that it was her wedding, and if I couldn't handle a few minor details, then maybe I shouldn't bother showing up. At that point, I was done. I told her that I wouldn't attend her wedding unless she apologized to my mom and best friend for the way she treated them. She said that was ridiculous, that it was her day, and that she wasn't going to apologize for anything. I told her I wasn't interested in attending a wedding where I wasn't valued, and I hung up. Now, Adam is really upset with me. He says that I'm causing unnecessary drama and that I should be the bigger person. He says that me not attending will create a huge rift in the family and that I'm being selfish for letting something like this affect the entire family. My in-laws have also reached out to me, saying that I should just attend and suck it up for Adam's sake, but I don't want to be part of an event where I feel completely disrespected. AITA for refusing to attend my sister-in-law's wedding unless she apologizes for the way she's treated me and my family? Should I just let it go and go to keep the peace? Or is it okay to stand my ground on this? AITA for making my friend pay me back after she borrowed money for an emergency but never paid it back? So here's the deal. A few months ago, my best friend, we'll call her Emma, went through a really tough situation. She had a medical emergency with her younger brother, who had to be hospitalized. It was completely unexpected and put her in a really stressful position. During this time, she reached out to me for help, and I knew she needed the money urgently. She asked if I could lend her $2,000 to help cover some of the medical expenses, and she promised to pay me back as soon as she could. I was hesitant at first, but I know she would do the same for me, so I agreed to lend her the money. I even told her that it was no problem, and she could take her time to pay me back. After all, I wanted to support her during such a stressful time. Fast forward to about 4 months later, and Emma hasn't paid me back a single cent. At first, I wasn't too worried about it. I understand life can be chaotic, and things don't always go according to plan, especially when you're dealing with a family emergency. But as the weeks turned into months, I started to feel a little uncomfortable. Every time I brought it up, she would make excuses or say things like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just haven't had the chance to sort things out yet. But I will. I promise." I gave her space, not wanting to seem pushy, but got to the point where I was feeling more and more upset about it. I know she's been working. She's been posting about her trips and going out to eat with other friends on social media, which made me feel like she had the money to pay me back, but was just choosing not to. So, last week, I decided to have a serious conversation with her about it. I told her that it had been months, and I was getting a bit anxious about not seeing any progress toward repayment. I told her I wasn't mad, but I needed her to at least start paying me back in small installments if she couldn't pay the full amount at once. I also made it clear that I wasn't looking for her to pay me back all at once, but I felt it was only fair she started chipping away at the balance. Her response was completely unexpected. She started crying and said that I was being unreasonable. She claimed I was putting pressure on her when she was already stressed about her brother's health and her finances. She said she didn't have the extra money right now, and she felt like I was demanding repayment when she was already dealing with a lot. I tried to remain calm and explain that I wasn't trying to pressure her, but that I felt like I was being taken advantage of. She immediately got defensive, saying I didn't understand what she was going through, and that I was just being greedy. Now I'm feeling really torn. I've always been there for Emma, and I've helped her in many ways over the years, but this feels like she's taking me for granted. I don't want to lose her as a friend, but I also don't feel like I should let this go. I've been patient for months, and it's really starting to affect me. I understand she had a tough situation, But I also think it's not fair for her to take so long to pay me back, especially when it seems like she's spending money on other things. I'm wondering if I'm being too hard on her. Am I wrong for expecting her to pay me back after months of promises and excuses? I know she's my friend, but this feels like more than just a simple loan at this point. I really need to know if I'm being unreasonable here, or if I'm right to be upset. So, AITA for making my friend pay me back after she borrowed money for an emergency, but never paid it back? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she told me I wasn't allowed to wear white. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emma, 25F. We've always had a bit of a complicated relationship, but it's been more or less fine the past couple of years. Growing up, we never really got along. She was always the golden child of the family, the one who could do no wrong, and I was often the black sheep. I don't want to get too into it, but I've spent a lot of my adult life trying to deal with the consequences of growing up in a house where everything I did was scrutinized, while Emma could do whatever she wanted and still be praised. Now, fast forward to the present. Emma got engaged about 6 months ago, and while I wasn't exactly thrilled for her, due to some lingering personal feelings, I was still supportive. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. However, as soon as the wedding planning started, things took a turn. I was, in a sense, asked to be a bridesmaid, but this wasn't really a request. It was more of a you're in the wedding, no questions asked type of thing. I didn't mind much at first. I've been a bridesmaid for a few other weddings before, so I figured it would be another one of those things. But as the planning continued, I started noticing some very odd and frankly annoying demands coming from Emma. For one, she picked a bridesmaid dress that was, well, not flattering. It was this horrendous shade of mint green that looked awful on almost everyone. When I tried to voice my concerns, she snapped at me and said I should be grateful she picked a color at all. Fine, I'll let it go. It wasn't worth fighting over. Then came the issue of the wedding day itself. About a month ago, Emma sent me a text with the subject line, dress code for the day. The text read, "You cannot wear white to the wedding." I know it sounds obvious, but some people need reminding. Just don't do it, okay? I was confused. I mean, I wasn't planning to wear white, but why was she telling me this? I figured it was a simple mistake and responded, "Of course I won't wear white. I know that's your day, don't worry." But then she texted back saying, "Just to be clear, you can't wear anything remotely white, off-white, or cream. I don't care what shade it is, no white tones. You'll ruin the photos." At this point, I was starting to get frustrated. I texted back, "I never planned on wearing anything white. I thought we were past that." She replied, "I don't care what you planned. I'm telling you now." I was taken aback by her tone, but I let it go for the moment, not wanting to escalate things. After all, it was just a dress color, right? But then I started thinking about it. Why was she so fixated on me not wearing white? I mean, there's no real history of me wearing white to other people's weddings, so it felt a bit controlling. Plus, I felt like there was some underlying judgment there, like she was treating me like a child who needed constant direction. It got even more ridiculous when Emma asked all the bridesmaids to send pictures of their outfits for approval 2 weeks before the wedding. This included the shoes and accessories, too. I thought this was strange, but went along with it. However, I made the mistake of wearing a light color shawl with my dress, one that was a soft pastel beige. It wasn't anywhere close to white, but it was close enough to trigger a message from Emma that said, "That's too light. The shawl is too close to white. You can't wear that." I was beyond frustrated at this point. I texted her back saying, "It's beige, Emma, not white. I've been nothing but supportive of your wedding, but you're taking things way too far." She responded with a very cold, "I don't care. Don't make me the villain here." At this point, I felt like I was being gaslit. It wasn't just about the dress code anymore. It felt like she was treating me like an adversary, not a sister. I decided to have a conversation with her in person to clear the air. We met at a cafe, and I straight up told her that her constant micromanaging of my wedding attire felt controlling and unnecessary. I told her that I was happy to be a bridesmaid, but didn't appreciate being treated like I was incompetent or incapable of understanding the rules. Her reaction? She burst into tears and accused me of not supporting her enough. She said, "You always have to make everything about you. I'm getting married, and I want everything to be perfect. It's not too much to ask for a little help." I tried to explain that I was just trying to be supportive, but I couldn't help but feel like she was putting more pressure on me than I could handle. It wasn't about her wedding. It was about her need for control. And when I said that, she got defensive. "You just don't get it," she said. "If you can't even support me with something as simple as this, why should I have you at my wedding at all?" I left that conversation feeling terrible, but at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being manipulated. It wasn't the first time in our lives that Emma had made me feel small, but this was the first time it was happening in the context of such a significant event. Fast forward a week later, and I received a final message from her. "I don't want to fight anymore, but if you can't respect my wishes, I don't want you at the wedding. This is important to me." I thought about it long and hard, and finally, I made the decision. I texted her back saying, "I don't think I can attend the wedding. It's too much, and I don't feel like I could be a part of something that's making me feel this way. I'll still be there for you, but I'm not coming to the wedding." Emma was furious. She sent a flurry of angry texts, calling me selfish, dramatic, and unsupportive. Our parents got involved and tried to talk me into going, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I feel bad about not going, but at the same time, I feel like I've been pushed to the edge. AITA for not attending my sister's wedding after everything that's happened. AITA for kicking my best friend out of my wedding after she confessed she was in love with my fiancé. Okay, so this is kind of a long one, and I'm really not sure if I'm in the wrong here or if my reaction was justified. But here we go. I, 28F, am getting married to my fiancé, Sam, 29M, in a few months. We've been together for 4 years, and I'm so excited to finally marry the love of my life. My best friend, Chloe, 28F, has been my closest friend since college. We've been through everything together, and I honestly thought she was like a sister to me. I'd even say she's one of the most important people in my life. Chloe is also one of my bridesmaids, and I asked her to be my maid of honor because I couldn't imagine anyone else being in that role. So here's where things get tricky. Chloe and I have always been very close. We'd hang out all the time, text every day, and do everything together. I've always known that Chloe is a little more reserved when it comes to relationships, and she hasn't been in a serious one for a long time. I've always been there for her through every breakup, every rough patch, and we would vent to each other about guys. I never once thought there was anything romantic on her end with Sam. I always thought they were just good friends, and I really trusted them both. A couple of weeks ago, Chloe and I were having a heart-to-heart after a bridal shower event that Sam's family hosted. I was telling Chloe how stressed I was about the wedding and how I wanted everything to go perfectly. Chloe, who had been uncharacteristically quiet all day, asked if we could talk privately. I agreed, and we went in my room to chat. That's when she hit me with a bombshell. She told me that she had been in love with Sam for years. I was absolutely stunned. I asked her to clarify, and she admitted that she developed feelings for him right after I started dating him. She said she'd kept it to herself for the entire time because she didn't want to ruin our friendship, but now, with the wedding approaching, she couldn't keep it in anymore. She said she was having a hard time watching me marry him, and it felt like she was losing something very important to her. She said she wasn't asking me to break up with Sam, but that she just needed me to know how she felt. I was completely blindsided. To be honest, I didn't know what to say at first. Part of me wanted to be understanding and try to comfort her, but another part of me was angry and hurt. She's my best friend. How could she hide something like this from me? How could she develop feelings for my fiancé and not tell me earlier? I was so upset, and I asked her why she was telling me this now, just before my wedding. Chloe started crying, saying that she couldn't bear the thought of me marrying Sam and that it was eating her up inside. She said she had tried to move on, but seeing how happy Sam and I were just made her feelings worse. She said she couldn't bear to be in my wedding and be expected to support our relationship when it felt like she was losing the person she loved. I'll admit, I was shaking with anger. How could my best friend do this to me? I told her she needed to leave. I told her I couldn't have someone who had these feelings about my fiancé at my wedding and that I couldn't trust her anymore. It felt like a betrayal on a level I couldn't even comprehend. Chloe tried to apologize, but I told her I needed space from her and she needed to leave. She left, and we haven't spoken since. That was 2 weeks ago. I've since had a long conversation with Sam about the situation, and he's been incredibly supportive. He feels really bad for Chloe and understands why she feels conflicted, but he also agrees that it's inappropriate for her to confess this now. Sam says he doesn't want me to lose my best friend over this, but he also understands why I'm upset. He doesn't want Chloe to be at the wedding either, and I'm starting to think maybe we should just cut ties with her entirely. Now, the thing is, I've been getting a lot of messages from mutual friends and some of Chloe's other close friends telling me that I overreacted. They say Chloe's confession was just her being vulnerable and that I should understand that she's struggling. They say I should forgive her and let her back into my life. But honestly, I'm feeling so hurt and betrayed that I'm not sure I can. I feel like my trust in her has been shattered. Some of my family members are also telling me that I need to be more compassionate and that Chloe is just going through a tough time. But others agree with me, saying that what she did was incredibly disrespectful, and I shouldn't let her anywhere near the wedding if she has feelings for Sam. I'm honestly torn. I want to be understanding, but I also can't ignore how hurt I am by her actions. I feel like I've been put in an impossible situation, and I'm not sure if I'm being too harsh or if I'm justified in my feelings. AITA for kicking my best friend out of my wedding after she confessed she was in love with my fiancé? Should I try to repair our friendship, or is it time to cut ties? AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because of his toxic fiancé? I, 28F, have always been close with my older brother, Jake, 30M. Growing up, we were inseparable, always having each other's backs. We were the typical siblings who argued and fought like cats and dogs, but when it came down to it, we were there for each other through thick and thin. Our relationship, however, has drastically changed over the past couple of years due to his relationship with his fiancée, Emily, 29F. Jake met Emily about 3 years ago. At first, I was excited for him because he seemed really happy. He would talk about her all the time, and they'd come over to visit often. Emily seemed sweet at first, kind, caring, and easy to talk to. But after a few months, I started to notice some concerning behavior from her. At first, it was small things. Emily would make passive-aggressive comments about my appearance or the way I live my life. She'd comment on how I didn't dress appropriately for certain events or how my apartment was too messy for someone my age. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe it was being too sensitive, but then it escalated. One day, I overheard Emily talking to Jake in their kitchen while I was visiting. She was telling him how lazy I was and how she didn't understand how I could be okay with living in such a dump. Jake didn't say anything back to her, so I assumed he either agreed with her or was too afraid to stand up to her. I didn't confront her at the time, but I felt humiliated and hurt. I'm a grown adult, and I take pride in my home and my life choices. For someone to talk to my brother like that about me was completely uncalled for. Things only got worse after that. Emily would constantly undermine me in front of my family, even making snide comments about my career. I work in a creative field, and she always made it sound like my job wasn't real or serious. She would even go so far as to tell my parents that they should be more disappointed in me for not having a more conventional job. I found myself dreading family gatherings because I knew Emily would find a way to put me down in front of everyone. What really pushed me to my breaking point, though, was the way she treated my mother. My mom is a very warm and nurturing person. She's always been someone who loves to host family gatherings, cook huge meals, and take care of everyone. But Emily had a problem with that. She would make snarky comments about how my mom overcompensated by cooking too much or tried too hard to be the perfect hostess. I tried to brush it off initially, but it started to chip away at me. The final straw came during a family dinner at my parents' house. Emily was making yet another comment about how my mom was acting like a martyr for constantly cooking for everyone. And my mom, who had clearly had enough, finally snapped and told Emily to stop criticizing her. Emily, of course, made a huge scene and called my mom crazy for being so emotional and dramatic. I was furious. I'd never seen my mom so upset, and it crushed me to see her treated that way. I told Emily to leave, and she tried to start an argument with me, but I stood my ground. Jake didn't intervene, which only reinforced my belief that he was too scared of Emily to stand up for anyone else. After that night, I decided I couldn't be around her anymore. I try to distance myself from Jake as well, but it wasn't easy. Every time I tried to talk to him about Emily's behavior, he'd brush it off, telling me that I was overreacting and that Emily just had a tough upbringing. He claims she didn't know how to communicate properly and that she was just trying to be protective of him. I tried to explain to him that no one should have to endure that kind of treatment, especially not someone as kind and generous as our mother, but he wouldn't listen. Fast forward to a few months ago when Jake got engaged to Emily. He sent me an invite to their wedding, but I didn't respond immediately. I was in a bit of a dilemma. I knew attending the wedding would mean spending an entire day with Emily, and I honestly didn't think I could do it. But I also didn't want to cause a scene or ruin my brother's special day. After a lot of thinking, I decided to be honest with Jake. I told him that I couldn't attend the wedding because of how Emily had treated me, our mother, and other members of the family. I explained that I didn't feel comfortable supporting their relationship when Emily had been so toxic and hurtful to the people I love. I also told him that I loved him and would always support him, but I just couldn't put myself in a position where I had to pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. Jake was furious. He told me that I was being selfish and that I was making his wedding about me instead of focusing on his happiness. He accused me of trying to create drama and said I was jealous that he had found someone who made him happy. I tried to explain that it wasn't about jealousy, it was about the way Emily had treated me and my family, but he wouldn't listen. He said I was being dramatic and that if I didn't attend the wedding, I was making a huge mistake. I ended up not attending the wedding, and while I felt guilty about not being there for Jake, I also knew that it was the right decision for me. The wedding day came and went, and I received a few angry texts from Jake about how I ruined his day. Since then, he hasn't really spoken to me much. Our relationship has been strained, and I've tried reaching out to him, but he hasn't been responsive. Emily, of course, is still in the picture, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to accept her or be close to my brother again as long as they're together. I'm left feeling conflicted. I love my brother, and I want him to be happy, but I can't support a relationship that I believe is toxic. I've tried to explain my feelings to him, but he's made it clear that he's chosen Emily and her behavior over his own family. So, AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because of his toxic fiancée, AITA for telling my fiancé he doesn't deserve a vacation after canceling our wedding plans for the third time. I, 28F, am engaged to my fiancé, Tom, 30M, and we've been together for almost 4 years. We've always had our fair share of ups and downs, but overall, I thought we were a strong couple. We've lived together for over 2 years now, and things have generally been going well until the wedding planning started. We got engaged about 18 months ago, and I was so excited to start planning our dream wedding. I've always imagined a small but beautiful ceremony with a few close friends and family, and I'd already done a lot of the planning. I even bought my wedding dress about a year ago, which was a huge deal for me. Tom seemed just as excited about it as I was, and everything was falling into place. But then things started going wrong. First, Tom had some reservations about the guest list. He wanted to invite more people than we originally planned, but I wasn't comfortable with that. Our venue was small, and we both agreed on an intimate celebration. However, Tom insisted on inviting his extended family, even though I didn't feel comfortable with them being there. It caused a lot of tension, and we spent weeks arguing over it. Eventually, we came to a compromise and agreed on a slightly larger guest list, but that was only the beginning of the issues. About 4 months ago, Tom came to me and said that he felt overwhelmed by the wedding planning and that we needed to push back the date. I agreed, even though I was disappointed. We rescheduled for a few months later, hoping that the time would allow us both to breathe and get back on track. But then, 3 months before the new date, Tom dropped another bombshell. He needed more time. Apparently, he was stressed out with work, and he didn't feel ready for such a big commitment yet. I was upset, but tried to be understanding. We agreed to reschedule yet again, this time for the following summer. At this point, I was starting to get frustrated. I had already put so much time and energy into planning this wedding, and I felt like Tom wasn't taking it seriously. Every time we rescheduled, I felt like he was stringing me along. I tried to express my concerns to him, but every time, he'd get defensive and say I was being too pushy or unreasonable. Then, 2 months ago, we had a huge argument. Tom told me that he felt like the whole wedding was more for me than for us, and that I was making all the decisions without considering his opinions. I was hurt by this because I had always tried to involve him in the planning. I asked him if he was still sure he wanted to get married at all, and that's when he told me that he wasn't sure anymore. He said he needed time to think and that maybe we should call off the wedding altogether. I was crushed. I had spent so much time and effort planning for a future with him, and now he was telling me he didn't even know if he wanted to get married. We fought for hours, and in the end, we agreed to take a break from wedding planning for a while to give Tom space to figure out what he wanted. But as the weeks went on, nothing changed. He kept saying he was thinking about it, but every time I brought it up, he'd change the subject or say he wasn't ready to talk about it. Fast forward to last week. Tom came to me with a suggestion. He wanted us to take a vacation together. He said it would be a chance for us to reconnect, get away from everything, and start fresh with the wedding planning. I was surprised, but willing to hear him out. However, when we started discussing the details of the vacation, I realized that he wanted to go to a destination that was really expensive and not exactly within our budget. I asked him if he thought we should be spending that kind of money, considering everything that had happened with the wedding. He told me it would be a reward for both of us after everything we'd been through. To be fair, we hadn't gone on a proper vacation in a long time, so I could see where he was coming from. But then, the more I thought about it, the more frustrated I became. How could he be suggesting a vacation when we hadn't even gotten our wedding plans back on track? We had already postponed our wedding twice, and now he was proposing an expensive getaway? It felt like he was avoiding the real issue, our lack of progress on our future together. I told him that I didn't think a vacation was the solution and that we needed to focus on the wedding first. He got upset, saying that I was being too negative and not understanding the need for a break. The turning point came when I flat out told him, "You don't deserve a vacation." I explained that he hadn't shown any commitment to the wedding, and I didn't think he had earned a reward when we still didn't even have a firm wedding date set. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. He called me harsh and said I was being unreasonable. He said he just wanted us to enjoy our time together and get away from the stress, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was using the vacation to avoid dealing with the bigger issues in our relationship. We've barely spoken since that conversation. Tom has been distant and hasn't mentioned the vacation again, but I can tell he's still upset with me. I feel bad for how I handled it, but at the same time, I feel like I was justified. I don't think he's taking our future seriously, and I don't think he deserves a break when we're still in this limbo with our wedding plans. So, AITA for telling Tom he doesn't deserve a vacation after everything that's happened with our wedding plans. I can't help but feel like he's using it as a way to avoid the real issues between us. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law live with us after she said my husband doesn't count as family. I, 28F, have been married to my husband, Jake, 30M, for almost 5 years. We live in a pretty small house, but it's cozy and we've made it work. It's just the two of us, and we enjoy our quiet little home and the routine we've built together. My in-laws live a few hours away, and we don't see them often, but we keep in touch via phone calls and occasional visits. Here's the issue. Jake's younger sister, Olivia, 24F, has always been a bit difficult. She's known for being very outspoken and has a tendency to make people feel uncomfortable without realizing it. She's also been going through a rough patch for the past couple of months. She recently broke up with her long-term boyfriend and lost her job due to some personal issues, and she has nowhere else to go. A few weeks ago, Olivia called Jake and asked if she could come stay with us for a while. She didn't give us much detail, but she said she needed a place to stay while she figures things out. I immediately felt uneasy about this. Our house is small, and while I want to help, I also don't feel comfortable having someone living with us for an indefinite period of time, especially when we've always valued our privacy. Jake was more open to the idea at first. He said that since Olivia was family, it only made sense to offer her a place to stay. He also said it would be good for her to have some stability while she gets back on her feet. I agreed to let her stay for a short period, maybe a few weeks, but I made it clear that it would be important for her to respect our space and rules while she was here. Jake assured me that Olivia would be respectful, and we set some boundaries, like having her pitch in with household chores and not making any long-term plans without discussing it first. So Olivia came over. At first, everything seemed fine. She was quiet and kept to herself during the first few days, but things quickly took a turn for the worse. She started being overly critical of everything. She didn't like the way our house was organized. She said that Jake's cooking wasn't up to par compared to what her ex-boyfriend used to cook. She kept commenting on our furniture, calling it cheap and ugly, and insisted that we update the place. This wasn't the worst part, though. The real issue came when Olivia started getting increasingly rude towards Jake. She'd make little remarks about how he didn't count as family because he's not part of our side of the family. She said things like, "It's nice of you to let him stay, even though he's not actually family," or, "I mean, I get it. He's your husband and everything, but he's still not your real brother." I tried to brush it off at first, thinking she was just having a tough time and was maybe saying things she didn't mean. But the comments didn't stop. They started getting worse, and eventually I confronted her about it. I told her that Jake is my family now, and that she needed to show him some respect. She got defensive and said that I was overreacting and that I shouldn't be so sensitive. She said it wasn't like she was being mean to him, but that it was just the truth in her eyes. I was livid at this point and told her that if she couldn't treat my husband with basic respect, then she would need to find somewhere else to stay. Olivia didn't take it well. She accused me of siding with Jake and said that it was unfair of me to choose him over my own sister-in-law. She even suggested that I was just being too protective of him and that I was trying to turn him into my number one priority instead of seeing the bigger picture. Jay tried to stay out of it at first, but he was clearly uncomfortable. He spoke to Olivia privately, trying to smooth things over, but she just kept pushing him away. After that conversation, I decided enough was enough. I told her that I didn't want her staying with us anymore, not just because of how she treated Jake, but also because I felt like the living situation was making everything tense and unhealthy. She was angry, but she agreed to leave, though it was clear she was upset. The fallout has been huge. Olivia hasn't spoken to me in weeks, and she's been telling the rest of the family that I'm being unreasonable and selfish. She said that I'm disrespecting her by kicking her out when she needed help the most, and that I'm choosing Jake over family. My in-laws have reached out to me, saying that I should have been more understanding and that I shouldn't have let Jake get in the middle of it. They're all calling me the bad guy in this situation. Jake is stuck in the middle. He's angry at his sister for her behavior, but he also feels torn because he doesn't want to be the reason I'm upset with his family. He keeps telling me I did the right thing, but I can tell it's bothering him that I'm at odds with his side of the family now. He says he wants to make peace with them, but I feel like I've already made my stance clear. Now, I feel like I've lost the respect of a lot of people on both sides of the family. Olivia has made it clear she doesn't want to talk to me, and I'm not sure if I've damaged my relationship with my in-laws permanently. I feel guilty, but at the same time, I don't think I did anything wrong. I didn't kick her out for no reason. I just didn't want her treating my husband like that in our home. So, AITA for kicking Olivia out after she disrespected my husband and me? Or should I have just sucked it up and let her stay longer, hoping she would eventually get over her issues? AITA for not helping my brother with his wedding expenses, even though I have the money and he's going through a rough time? So, to give a bit of background, I, 28F, have one brother, James, 30M. Growing up, James was always the golden child in our family. He was the smart one, the popular one, and the one who always got the attention. I, on the other hand, was more of the quiet, introverted type. I got decent grades, had a small group of friends, and generally kept to myself. Because of this, I always felt like I had to work harder to get noticed. My parents never treated me badly, but it was clear that James was the one who got the praise, the scholarships, the support, while I was just kind of there. Fast forward to now. James is getting married in a few months, and the wedding planning is in full swing. He's marrying a woman named Carla, 29F, who, from what I've seen, is nice enough. I don't know her super well, but she seems like a good match for James. They've been together for a few years, and I guess they're happy. Now, the issue is the wedding itself. James and Carla have planned this huge wedding. I'm talking about a venue that costs over $50,000, fancy catering, professional photographers, elaborate flowers, and all the bells and whistles. I understand that it's their big day, and they want to make it memorable, but the costs are astronomical. And to be honest, I don't get it. They're not rich people. James works a desk job at a tech company, and Carla is a teacher. They've saved up for a while, but it's clear they don't have enough to cover everything. A couple of months ago, James reached out to me and asked if I could help them with some of the wedding expenses. At first, I thought he was just venting or joking, but he made it clear that he was serious. He told me that they were coming up short, and if I could lend them some money, they would be able to cover the rest. He said they had already exhausted all other options, and he really didn't want to have to scale back the wedding. He was really persistent about it, too. Here's where I'm torn. I have the money. I'm financially stable, with no major debts. I have a decent job in finance, and I've been saving for a while, so I could easily lend them the $10,000 they were asking for without it affecting my own finances too much. But here's the problem. I don't want to. I've spent my entire life watching James get everything handed to him. He was always the one who got the big birthday parties, the new tech gadgets, the high school prom tickets, and all the other things I never had. And yes, I get it, it was never his fault. But when it came time for me to ask for help, I was always told, figure it out, or you'll learn on your own. It wasn't that my parents didn't love me. It's just that they didn't understand how hard it was for me to get by. So, when James asked me for money, it just felt like a slap in the face. I've been busting my ass for years to get where I am, and now he wants me to just give him money for something that feels so unnecessary. I mean, the wedding isn't even for me. It's for him and Carla. And to make matters worse, I've heard him complain more than once about how hard it's been to get everything together. He's stressed about the budget and the guest list, but I just can't muster up any sympathy for him. I told him I wasn't comfortable lending him the money. I said I had my own savings and goals I was working toward, and that I just didn't feel right about giving him such a large sum. James was really upset. He said that I was being selfish and that it's family, and families help each other out. He tried to guilt-trip me by saying things like, "You have so much, and I have so little right now." He also mentioned how it would mean the world to him and Carla if I helped. But that didn't change my feelings. After that conversation, things got weird between us. Our parents, who usually stay neutral in everything, sided with James and said I was being difficult. They reminded me that it's just money and I should help my brother out because it's his wedding day. They also said that I could afford it, so why not just do it? But here's the thing. It's not just about the money. I've spent my whole life feeling like I've had to work 10 times harder than James just to be recognized. And now, after all of that, I'm supposed to just hand over thousands of dollars for something that feels like a luxury, not a necessity? I've talked to a few of my friends about this, and they're split. Some of them say I'm totally justified in not wanting to lend James the money, while others think I'm being petty and holding on to past grudges that have nothing to do with this situation. I just want to know, AITA for not helping my brother with his wedding expenses, even though I have the money and he's going through a rough time? Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.